Believe Nation, we are live. I'm going to close the door so I don't interrupt Nina and all the work she's doing. She's focused. She's focused today. All right. Happy Friday. Friday's CEO day for me. So my whole day got thrown for a loop today. So anyway, but we're still doing our Q&A show with my friend Mark Jager for the Sultana podcast. We're going to take your questions, get them ready. We're waiting on Mark. There he is.
Why did your day get thrown for a loop?
Mr. Joe Polish is why my day got thrown for a loop.
Oh my goodness.
Ask us your questions. Yeah, he's doing his he's got two groups. One called the 25K group and one called the 100K group, which is basically just how much you pay to be in the group per year. So he's running his 25K group right now. And he wants me to speak at it. So I'm just gaining context on who's in the group and what they're doing. So good times.
Super glitchy, or is this just my internet connection?
I am not glitchy. You don't look glitchy.
I don't look glitchy? Okay, cool. I'll just try and... You sound like a robot to me.
Well, it's your side. We've already figured this out enough that Mark Jager's internet is not fantastic. One of these days he's going to fix it. Do you want to give us a quick intro of what we're doing, Mark?
Sure. Welcome to the Something to Prove podcast with Evan and myself. We connect, 2 times per week. One time we tend to hit this hard-hitting topic, and then this is our bonus time. This is our time where we can answer your questions. You can throw your hard questions to Evan. I'll take a swing at them as well, and you can drop them in the question box below.
All right. So pop them down. We'll see how we do. Okay, first question. The Mohan says, when did you first decide to start your YouTube channel?
So I'm not going to answer this for myself because I can't really recall. It's not a great story. But for Evan, it's so interesting because I've known Evan since 2007, I think. And like in 2008 or 9, we were talking about video. We were talking about YouTube, but it hadn't really blown up yet. Ivan, when did you decide to actually start taking YouTube seriously enough to make something? Because we shot your first video together in March of 2010, I think.
2009, April 2009 was when it got released.
Is when it got released, yeah. But so when we shot it in March of 2009, then. So how long had you been thinking about YouTube as something to try before that?
I don't know, dude.
Come on, give me a specific moment and a specific date with your memory.
No idea. That's 11 years ago. I have no idea. It was a test. Mark had a video production company only at the time. I'm a visual learner. I had lots of content on my website at the time. I wasn't thinking YouTube channel. I was thinking video added to my website because I had all sorts of content and stories talking about famous entrepreneurs. And that's why I did it. I thought, hey, in my sidebar, it'd be cool to have a video. So we did that first video. And then I did, it took me a little bit. I don't know when the next video came up. That video was intense. That was stressful, and I'm in my suit, and, Mark probably took forever to edit it. But we got it up, and then it took me, I don't know, you can go back and look at my channel and see when my next video was. It wasn't like the next day another video is coming up. It took a while. At the time,
releasing like 1 or 2 a month.
It was really just, I was getting website traffic and I want to have video on my website, and YouTube was the maybe only tool, I don't know, at the time where you could embed a video on the website. So okay, great, let's do it. So that's why I started. When did I start taking it seriously? I don't know. When did it move from just being a website to a YouTube channel?
After we did a whole bunch of the modeling the master type little bite-sized things where it's very specific, you started doing those series in your house, right? You had a house, and I just remember you for some reason in a blue sweater or something, or vesty type thing, answering questions off of your like BlackBerry or something like that, right? It was a long time ago.
Yeah, but that was then definitely a YouTube strategy where I was focused on creating YouTube content. But I think it was even before that. Anyway, I don't know. I think it was because people started asking me questions. And I thought I'm just gonna make a video response. And I started the famous profiles, and then it became famous profiles plus Q&A. Yeah, and then it just evolved.
But the real thing to note is it took 5 years to get whatever 15,000 subscribers or something, right? Like people think
5 years to get 7,000 subscribers.
So not necessarily super quick. You were pretty patient about it, right?
Yeah, but also, you know, being a YouTuber wasn't a thing at the time, and I just always was happy that somebody showed up and watched it. Like that was a real person watching it, and not just, oh, only 100 people watched it. That sucks. I suck. You know, imagine doing a speech in front of 100 people. You'd love it. Perspective.
How many people were in front of your first speech?
In Canada, 3. You already know this. Okay. It's Barbie's Books. Hi, what is motivating you this month?
What's motivating me this month? Right now, I'm pretty fired up about some new clients that we're onboarding and some new sales strategies that we're testing. I find that really exciting.
What's the new sales strategy you're testing?
Do you want to get into the sales strategies that I'm testing?
Just quickly, just like one-liner, Mark.
Oh yeah, sure. So what we've done is we've started we're trying to target entrepreneurs.
It's not a one-liner. What's the new sales strategy? Ads?
The new
phone calls?
The new
hiring
sales
somebody?
strategy, fine. New sales strategy is I'm selling a totally different model. It's just trying something new in front of prospects, like figuring it out in front of prospects, meeting after meeting.
Oh, the sales pitch. It's the pitch that's different. Oh, it's just a different sales pitch. Okay, that's fine. I was thinking sales strategy. Well, all right. I'm excited that my friend Mark is making progress. We had a good chat last night.
We did.
Making progress. And I'm
So is that safe to say that Mark is motivating you this month?
No, I'm motivating myself for helping Mark make progress.
Bravo.
And I've been there's a couple of positions in my company that I need to fill with the right people, and I've been making some good progress. And it's been giving me, like, it's on my mind a lot. And so at the beginning I hate that. And then I learned that all the great things come from me thinking about things like that and focusing on it. So yeah, so we're close. We've brought 2 people on, and then 3 potentials. 2 people on and 3 potentials. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm excited. That's motivating. King Winfrey, are you living authentically?
I've never been asked that question before. Am I living authentically?
King Winfrey always has good questions.
It's a really interesting question. I mean, I think that I don't know, Evan, am I living authentically? I feel like I live authentically. And then that's very different question than are you...
Okay, answer the question that he asked. It's not a very... I don't care what the very different question is the sky blue?
So short? You're so short today.
Well, like, answer the question. This is a very different question than do you have a skateboard? Yes, it is. Are you living authentically, Trigger?
Yes.
That's it?
I think so, because whenever I'm struggling to work through something, I find it very hard to create content or share content because it makes me feel like I'm being hypocritical. So I think that's a sign of living authentically when things that worry you, when you're more self-aware of how you're feeling in a moment, and yeah.
I think it's a constant game. I think, like, that's the daily challenge, that who you are is 99.9% of who you were yesterday. And so you don't notice the shift on a day-to-day, but you'll notice, like, if it's 99% every day, you'll start to feel off. And so that's the ongoing game that you have to continually tweak. Like, what is authentic will change in tiny ways every day. So I don't think you're ever like fully there, or at least I'm never fully there, but it's always the intention to try to get there.
Well, and where I was going with that in terms of maybe the side question that I thought of, what this made me think of is whether you're showing up authentically, though, whether you're being vulnerable to people, whether you're authentic on social media, whether you're doing all of those things. So I think it's actually maybe a little bit easier to live authentically, but we do that within ourselves, and we don't necessarily share that with everyone. And so I think showing up authentically and sharing the authentic version of you is actually much harder.
I'm a Toes CEO. What would you do when you broke?
Maybe what would you do if you were broke?
What would you do if you went, okay, Mark, so if you went broke, what would you do?
If I went broke, so one of the things that we often don't think about as entrepreneurs or business people is the longer you've been in something, the more people you know. And year after year after year, if you're serving and if you're helping, if you're trying to help people out, over the course of 3 years, 5 years, like I never even realized how important those connections can become. And so if I were to go broke, one, I would reach out to friends and family and say, I need a place to live. What can we do? Can you help me out? Is there anything we can do to get by? Two, I would look for any work that I could do to help earn some money and provide. And that's any work at all. I would do and I would take on. And then once I felt like things were a little more stable, right? Maybe you're just away from maybe things are just a little bit more stable. Then I would start to plan, right? Then I would start to say, what else can I do? How can I ladder back up and look at a long horizon of a few years to do so? But first I would lean on friends, family, and connections. I would get stable, and then I would start to build from there.
We kind of got asked this question before, and I had an answer at the time, and I have a variation of that answer. I don't think about this a lot. So, one, I would cut back all my expenses as much as possible.
I assume that's how you're broke. So they're coming in with trucks and they're taking all of your stuff away.
Yeah, but there's still, there's if you cut back on your lifestyle from the condo and the car and the whatever, clothes, and not that there's tons of entertainment dollars going out right now, but if you cut back on your lifestyle, like I would go move in with my parents or Nina's parents or Mark Drager and all his chickens in the backyard. I just cut it to zero almost, so that now you're not as pressured. If you have to pay X every month for your mortgage and your rent and your everything else, then it's a lot harder to get back there. So I cut all my expenses as quickly and as much as possible. And then I would probably go to my network and see how I could help them for a year or two. I would go to my friends. I would go to Brendan Burchard and Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi and Ed Milet and Grant Cardone and Gary Vee and all of them and say, hey, want to hire me? Yeah, I can help. And it's also just timing, one of them might be in the right spot right now that it just makes sense. And then I would do that for a year or two to get everything back up, and then plot my next course. That's what I would do.
Good
if I was broke. It's a good plan. All right. All right. Upendra, I'm learning public speaking because of my job demands it, but it doesn't interest me. I'm good at communication skills, and it gets cut off. So someone is learning public speaking for their job, but it doesn't interest them. What should they do, Mark?
Yeah, so I look at this, especially with my team or my staff or people I've worked with in the past. There's lots of things that we have to do to get better at our job or our role that may serve us in the future that we just don't like. In a business or whatever, people call these soft skills, right? Like how to respond properly to an email, how to speak in front of a crowd, how to be able to explain yourself in a written brief, right? Evan, just these things that you can learn as you develop your career and whatnot. And the way that I would do it is to say, hey, this is something that's going to help me in the future. Is this something that I want to pursue? Is it something that I'm going to do all the time? But no, but I can't imagine that this process. I mean, if it's extremely painful and you have a lot of anxiety or generalized anxiety, it's causing you a lot of harm, then maybe it's not great. But if you're more indifferent about it, then this is an amazing skill that will serve you in the future, in one-on-one meetings, in crafting a story, in how to measure breathing, or whatever game it is you want to play. I would turn it into something that does interest me.
If you have a job, the point of having a job is to learn, to sustain yourself financially, and to learn. No job is going to be perfect and be always exactly what you want it to be, right? Just like being your own boss, being an entrepreneur is never going to be exactly how you want it to be. But what I'd be looking at is how much of the job you're doing is helping you get to where you want to be. If the point of a job is to learn and to grow, then how much of what you're doing is going to help you become the person that you want to be for the next step. And if that's a super low percentage, right? Like if all day you're doing stuff you hate and public speaking is just one of them, then that might be time to look at, maybe I need a different job where I'm learning skills that I want to learn, get better at. If 75% of it is still great and you're learning a lot, and this is the 25% that you don't like, I don't know that you'll get better somewhere else, right? Like going to another job, it might be the flipped again. Now you're doing 75% getting coffee for people instead of what you want to be doing. So there's always going to be those things in a job. The question I would ask though is what percent of my time in this job is being spent where I feel like I'm learning, I'm growing, and being challenged? And do I realistically think I can get something better somewhere else? Right? That's my answer. All right. What else?
I like answers. Evan, you're good at this answering questions thing.
Botham Hawkins asks, is this my second client, the Mark Jager?
Yes.
It is in the flesh.
Oh, I talked so much on yesterday's podcast episode about the We Do Hard Things podcast that Evan had to tell me to stop talking about it.
He's pimping it out. Like, I mean, we're very happy that he finally launched it. Holy cow. But listen, we're doing our own podcast right now. Okay.
What's wrong with a little cross promotion from the Something to Prove podcast to the We Do Hard Things podcast? You can just go ahead and look it up.
A little is great. A little is great. The Mohan is asking, what did you want to become in your life before you started your first company?
Oh man, so many things. Like I wanted to be a race car driver and a mechanic and all of these things. But when I was in high school, I actually wanted to become an architect and an engineer. And right before the college applications, like right before, like the day before, I switched and I went to film school instead. And I made everyone in my family, well, half my family, quite upset. My grandmother said, "It's okay, you're young. You have time to recover from this mistake." That's kind of what she told me. But I went off to film school instead, and then after film school, then I worked, and then I started my marketing agency.
I wanted to be a baseball player because I loved Kelly Gruber from the Toronto Blue Jays. So I wanted to be a baseball player. Huh? You cut out.
Or is he back catcher or third baseman? I don't remember.
No, he was third baseman.
Okay.
Third baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays, Kelly Gruber, World Series champion.
Yes, he had there.
I love Kelly Gruber, so I wanted to be a baseball player during the season. And then I wanted to be a police officer in the off season. Yeah, so that was, how old was I then? Probably about, maybe just a little bit older than 8 or 9 year old Evan here. The Blue Jays, I think, started in '88. So when I was 8.
Yep.
So
they won in what, 91, 92, right?
They won in 92 and 93, but I was this was my dream before they won. Like Kelly Gruber was the guy. Kelly Gruber wasn't the guy on the World Series teams. He became a piece of it was Roberto Alomar and Joe Carter and those guys. But Kelly Gruber was the guy before those guys came. So like probably 80, 89. So yeah, maybe this Evan here, that's what he wants to be. He wanted to be a baseball player during the season and a cop in the off season. And if you think about what I'm actually doing, that's basically what I do.
Yep.
Okay. Medusa Butters, what's your advice for people who are nervous to get started on a new venture?
So I think the first thing to do is to recognize that your nervousness is a healthy and good thing. I mean, that you telling yourself that this is important and that I'm worried about it and things that can go wrong. I would ask whether you can turn that nervous energy into like showing up stronger, like putting a little bit more pressure on yourself, working a little bit harder, doing the things that you fear. So calling the person you don't want to call, reaching out to the person you don't want to reach out to, launching the thing that you don't want to launch yet. If you're nervous about something, it can either kind of crush you, or it can be the thing that you turn into to say, like, I don't want any of these bad things to happen, so I'm going to work even harder, or even just give you that little bit of excitement that you need to say, okay, it's time for us to show up. Let's go.
You should listen to the We Do Hard Things podcast.
Yes.
That's a good call out. 2, being nervous is not a good enough reason. Period. Except that, I mean, I'm nervous all the time to do things. And that's what I tell myself, that being nervous is not an acceptable reason to play small. Being scared, being nervous, the fact that it's hard, that those are not good enough reasons for you not to act. Because what do you want to, is what you want to teach yourself, what you want to teach your kids is that you're nervous and so you don't. You're nervous so you play small. You're nervous so you stay afraid and you never act. That's the path to a life of regret. So this kind of language is super important. In your head, you've accepted that being nervous is a good enough reason not to act. And I want to extinguish that. Being nervous, great. Not a good enough reason. What else you got? And if you keep going down that path, then you realize, oh, I don't actually have a good enough reason because I want to make myself proud. So I'm going to start this new venture. Let's go. All right, what else? We got tons of questions in here. Oops. Oh, I lost the whole feed. Wait, 1 second. Oh, okay, here we go. How to stop negative thoughts and thinking and live happily and stop overthinking. Mr. Drager in the house. Let's go.
He says that because I'm the king of overthinking. Okay, so for myself, I found it really helpful. And I don't know why this seems like it's not rocket science. It's really simple. You can't be happy all the time. And I think we all want to. I think we see people and we think that they're much happier than we are. They're much happier consistently. They're happier for longer, all of these things. And the truth is, it's just, I've had to come to terms with it because I've been searching for this happiness as well. You're not going to be happy all the time. So you're going to have happy and unhappy days or weeks or even seasons that you have to work through. But happiness will always come. Now, how to stop overthinking things and negative thoughts, which, in my mind are the same thing. Do something. Do something so you recognize that you're not feeling great or that you're overthinking or whatever. So great, I'm overthinking it. I need to do something. Take some kind of action. I'm having negative thoughts. I need to go somewhere else. Put myself in a different environment, do something different, try to clear my head, whatever it is, do. So I literally tell myself on the weekends, okay, enough thinking, Drager, do this. And I have to tell myself to go take some steps, pick up the tool, do whatever I'm doing, because I'm just sitting there thinking about things all the time.
Nice. I have a very similar answer, and I like that you made the connection, because I was going to say that I would pair negative thoughts and overthinking together, and the answer is action. You're sitting there stewing on something that you just have to go off and do, like the person who asked about the business. You're nervous about it, so what are you going to do? You're going to sit there and think negative thoughts about why you can't do it, and overthink of how you're going to start and do. Like, the answer is do. The answer is act. You have to do it. That's always the answer in the path through. To live happily, I see it through service. You got to help. You gotta help somebody. You gotta find your purpose and go start living it. But even if it's not that deep, even just hugging your husband or wife or your kids, or sending a nice email to a friend, like instantly will make you feel happier. So happiness, especially sustained happiness, is through service. I guess do one more. Okay, here we go. What has been the one mistake? Oh, it's the Mohant again. Wow, he gets double. He gets a 2 for 1. Wow, the Mohant. A lot of people want to ask questions. I pulled yours up two almost in a row. Wow. All right, this better be a good one. What has been the one mistake you made in your business, and what was the one lesson you learned? That's a good one. I like that one. Good job, Mohant.
Oh gosh, that's a good question. So I've been running my business for 14 years. Really hard to pick out one mistake because I've made so many mistakes, and often the same mistake over and over and over again, because it took me making the mistake the second or third time to go like, oh, this is the same mistake. It looks different. It's with a different person. It's a different situation. It's about a different thing, but it's actually the same mistake. And so it takes time. First of all, you're going to make a ton of mistakes. It takes time to get the pattern recognition. But for me, it's probably been in the past being so afraid of conflict that I'm not totally honest with people. And then because I'm so afraid of conflict, I hold on to people much longer than I should in terms of team or staff members or things like that. And it just slows everything down. So my fear of conflict, of being abrasive, means that I'm not talking to people the way that I should. I'm not being honest with them. And I don't want to make an issue, so I hold on to people like way too long. Yeah.
The biggest mistake I made was when I was 22 and I lost a $40 million deal because I was trying to be perfect. So I was overthinking. I was stuck in negative thought patterns, feeling like I'm too young. I'm not good enough. They're not going to want to talk to me yet. So I need to have the perfect plan and the perfect pitch and everything perfect. And then boom, $40 million deal, lost. So I'm a recovering perfectionist and have to remind myself, go, do, act, make, create. Let's go. Awesome, dude. Another fantastic podcast in the books. Where do people go if they want to sign up, listen more? Or do people sign up? What do they do for a podcast? I don't even know.
Yes. I mean, you'll go to your podcast feed, say Apple Podcasts, and you'll subscribe. Then we'll just go ahead, drop in your feed every time a new episode comes out. It's a lot like YouTube, Evan.
Subscribe to our podcast. When somebody goes, then when you're going to go listen to a podcast, do you then just load iTunes and it just has your list of podcasts?
Anymore. A little while ago, Apple broke out video or TV versus podcast. So you just go to your podcast playlist, and it's not even in iTunes anymore. Yeah, you have an iPhone. You could know this, but you don't listen to anything, right?
No, listen to any podcasts. Yeah. Okay, so go subscribe to the Something to Prove podcast, and you can hear all of our previous episodes as well as the bonus ones we do. The past 2 have been about me, where all the other ones have been about Mark. So if you want to dive deep into my world, go check it out. Appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend. See you soon, Mark.